The quaint, mist-kissed town of Parker Junction nestled peacefully in the mountains of Northern California, surrounded by towering pine trees and sparkling blue lakes. On the surface, it was a picture of rustic serenity, a place where people came to escape the rush of city life. Yet, beneath this quiet charm, a storm of secrets was brewing, waiting for the right breeze to sweep the dust away. It began with a man named Nicky Gorman. Nicky was not a wealthy man, nor was he looking for trouble, but desperation had a funny way of leading people down winding paths. He had traveled to Parker Junction searching for an old friend from his days in the military, a fellow paratrooper named Johnny Arthur. Nicky had promised his wife, Helena, that he would return home with $5,000, perhaps more. It was a sum that could save their family. The rent for their modest apartment was almost 4 months overdue, and their twin children desperately needed new clothes. However, Parker Junction did not welcome Nicky with open arms. When he asked polite questions about his missing friend to the local real estate agent, a stern woman named B. Johnson, she practically threw him out of her office. When he wandered near the vast, beautiful fields of the local ranch, the owner, Eli Ryle, aimed a hunting rifle at him and coldly accused him of trespassing. Even Andy Spake, the man who ran the boating dock, gruffly turned him away, claiming the lake was closed for the season. Nicky knew something was terribly wrong. His suspicions deepened when his car suddenly broke down. The town council members, the prominent figures of the community, insisted that nobody wanted to keep him in town. They urged him to leave, yet someone had mysteriously tampered with his engine, trapping him. Tragically, Nicky never made it back to his family. A dark, fast-moving car struck him down on a lonely mountain road. Miles away in a bright, cheerful office in the city, Mr. Barnaby Jones sat behind his desk. Barnaby was a man of quiet wisdom, gentle humor, and sharp observation. With his silver hair and kind smile, he looked more like a friendly grandfather than a seasoned private detective. His daughter-in-law, Betty, worked by his side. Betty was a bright, resourceful young woman whose warmth and dedication brought a special light to their daily work. One afternoon, Helena Gorman visited their office. She was a picture of quiet grief and resilient love. She explained her husband's sudden passing and the mysterious circumstances surrounding his trip to Parker Junction. "Mr. Jones," Helena said softly, twisting a handkerchief in her hands. "The reason I am here is that I cannot understand why Johnny Arthur never contacted us.
Nick went up there to meet him."
"And what happened to the money Nick promised to bring home?" Barnaby leaned forward, his voice soothing and steady. "You are thinking he might have been followed and harmed for that money, are you not?" "I am," Helena whispered. "I need help. I cannot pay much, but I need to know the truth." Barnaby exchanged a gentle look with Betty. "We will work the payment out, Mrs. Gorman.
Do not worry about that.
Everything is going to be fine." After Helena left, Barnaby turned to Betty with a thoughtful gleam in his eye. "What if there was no hit-and-run accident, Betty? I want you to dig up back issues of newspapers from Parker Junction. Look back 6 or 7 weeks. Search for any story that smells like quick money. I am going to head up to Parker Junction." Betty smiled brightly. "What do you really hope to find up there?" "A lake," Barnaby chuckled, his eyes twinkling. "I never did get a chance to try out that new fishing rod you gave me. There is a beautiful lake right out of town." When Barnaby arrived in Parker Junction, he adopted the persona of a carefree, retired gentleman looking to pass the time. He strolled into John Flory's general store, taking note of the expensive new suit Flory wore and the brand-new, fancy car parked outside. Barnaby's friendly, rambling conversation disguised his sharp inquiries. He asked about fishing licenses and local real estate, watching closely as Flory grew visibly uncomfortable. "You know," Barnaby remarked mildly, adjusting his glasses, "new things have a way of bragging." Barnaby's pleasant demeanor did not fool the nervous town council. Flory, Spake, B. Johnson, and Eli Ryle gathered in secret, their faces pale with guilt and paranoia. They had found something extraordinary weeks ago, $1 million in unmarked bills hidden in the woods, left behind by a notorious fugitive known as the Skyjacker. Out of greed, They had silenced Johnny Arthur, the man who came looking for the hidden treasure. When Nicky Gorman came asking questions, they silenced him, too. Now, their mechanic, a young man named Russ Lee, was trying to blackmail them for 10 times his original $500 payoff for tampering with Nicky's car. Meanwhile, Barnaby continued his cheerful tour of the town. He visited Andy Spake at the docks, playfully offering to fish off the pier despite Spake's nervous insistence that the concession was closed. He visited B. Johnson's real estate office, casually pointing out that Eli Ryle had recently paid off 2 massive mortgages in a very short time. Every harmless question Barnaby asked tightened the invisible net around the guilty parties. Back in the city, Betty's brilliant research connected the dots. She discovered that Johnny Arthur and Nicky Gorman were old military buddies. Johnny was the skyjacker who had parachuted into the woods with $1 million. Nick had gone to meet him, only to stumble into the town council's deadly secret. The pressure proved too much for the greedy town leaders. The mechanic, Russ, mysteriously disappeared, adding another layer to the tragedy. Barnaby knew he needed to flush the culprits out. He visited Eli Ryle's ranch, intentionally provoking the man by noting that Ryle's young son, Eddie, was wearing a highly unusual military watch, the exact watch that once belonged to the missing skyjacker. Panic set in among the council members. They arranged a frantic, desperate meeting in the dead of night, arguing fiercely among themselves. They blamed each other for the mess, their stolen wealth bringing them nothing but terror and mistrust. Barnaby and Betty, who had driven up to join him, watched from the shadows. Barnaby knew that without hard physical evidence, they needed a confession. He orchestrated a brilliant, nonviolent trap. He stepped out of the darkness and confronted the squabbling group. "The state police are on the way," Barnaby announced calmly, his voice carrying clearly through the crisp night air. "They're going to pick up that Jeep you were driving the day you struck down Nicky Gorman. The left headlight shattered on impact, and the glass found at the scene will match perfectly." The trap snapped shut. The group immediately turned on one another, shouting accusations in a desperate bid to save themselves. Ryle accused Spake of driving the Jeep. Spake accused Ryle of burying the skyjacker and the young mechanic on his land. In their blind panic and overwhelming greed, they confessed to every single crime, completely unaware that Barnaby had gathered the local hotel owner, Molly, and several other honest citizens to stand quietly in the shadows as witnesses. "You 4 are under arrest," Barnaby said firmly. Even the local sheriff, who had turned a blind eye for a share of the stolen money, was stripped of his badge and taken into custody. The following afternoon, the sun shone brightly over the tranquil waters of Parker Junction. The dark cloud that had hovered over the town was finally lifted. True justice had prevailed. Because the truth about the deliberate attack was revealed, Helena Gorman was entitled to collect a substantial life insurance settlement, securing a safe and comfortable future for her twin children. Barnaby sat at the edge of the wooden dock, the gentle breeze rustling his hair. He hummed a happy little tune as he cast his new fishing rod out into the shimmering lake. Betty walked down the dock, carrying a small picnic basket and a bright smile. "Did you catch anything yet?" she asked playfully. "Not a single nibble," Barnaby replied, his eyes crinkling with genuine joy. "But I have a feeling the day is only going to get better." And in that quiet, peaceful mountain town, surrounded by the healing beauty of nature, Barnaby Jones finally got to enjoy his well-deserved fishing trip.